$8.6 billion. Just think about that number for a second. That's how much has been spent on secondhand tankers in just the last year. It is a staggering amount of money. So what's really going on here? Let's get into it.
So what does that kind of cash actually buy you in the industry that, let's not forget, moves pretty much everything you own? Well, as we're about to find out, it's a lot more complicated than just buying a bunch of ships.
The answer really pulls back the curtain on a global industry that's being pulled in 3 different directions at once. We're talking about colossal amounts of money, incredibly risky bets on future tech, and a very real, growing sense of danger out on the water. We're going to break down all 3.
All right, first up, let's follow the money. Because the sheer amount of capital being poured into these fleets right now is completely reshaping the entire game.
So who is behind this massive spending spree? Well, if you look at the super important secondhand tanker market, Greek ship owners are on an absolute rampage. They're snapping up more than half the ships being sold by the biggest buyers. You know, it's a strategy they have perfected over generations, using their deep market knowledge to jump in when other people are hesitant. And it has given them a level of dominance that's honestly hard to wrap your head around.
And this table really puts it all into perspective. I mean, just look at these numbers. Palymbros Shipping, a Greek company, is at the top of the list, spending over $250 million. But you've also got huge players from Denmark and the UAE making massive 9-figure buys. And see that? 3 of the top 5 are Greek. It just proves how much capital they are pouring into expanding their fleets.
And make no mistake, this isn't just happening with tankers, it is happening all across the shipping world. Over in the container business, Zodiac Maritime is dropping almost $400 million on new ships. At the same time, Advantage Tankers is beefing up his crude fleet. They're ordering a new VLCC, that's a very large crude carrier, basically the titans of the ocean, plus 2 Suezmaxes. The money is just flowing, big time.
Want to know just how hot the market is right now? Get this, a 25-year-old bulk carrier, the Zhanghe 7, just sold for nearly $7 million. That is almost double what the ship is worth as scrap metal. It tells you everything you need to know. Owners are willing to pay a huge premium for any ship they can get their hands on, no matter how old, just to keep it trading.
Now, let's move on to our second theme, because this is where it gets even more interesting. When you buy a ship that's going to be sailing for 25 years, you're not just buying steel. You're making a massive bet on what the future of technology is going to look like, and more specifically, what kind of fuel that ship is going to burn.
And this is the huge conflict at the heart of the industry right now. It's really a choice between betting on tomorrow or sticking with today. On one side, you've got pioneers like CMB Tech going all in on ammonia, betting it's the real long-term zero-carbon answer. But then another industry giant, Eastern Pacific Shipping, just did a complete 180. They switched their orders away from ammonia and back to LNG. For them, it's about what works right now. The infrastructure's there, the fuel's available, the risks are known. So you've got 2 giants making completely opposite bets on the future.
And the pressure to make the right choice is just immense, because the technology is moving at light speed. The first big ammonia engines, they're going to be tested later this year. The first ships actually running on ammonia will hit the water in 2026. And by then, we're probably going to be talking about the next big thing, ethanol engines. The pace is just absolutely relentless.
And this quote from a Turkish ship owner, Ibrahim Gungan, man, it just perfectly captures the paralysis that so many people are feeling. He's saying, look, yes, we want to renew our fleet, but not when a ship we order today could become obsolete in 2 or 3 years. He's terrified of spending a fortune on a brand new ship only to have it be technically outdated almost as soon as it's delivered. It is a billion-dollar gamble with no clear winner in sight.
Okay, so this brings us to our final theme, and this is where the stakes get even higher. We're about to move from business and technology risks to actual physical danger and geopolitics, because the fact is, the world's oceans are becoming a much more dangerous place.
And to really understand this new danger, you have to know this term, the shadow fleet. Basically, these are ships that operate in the gray zones of international law. They hide their ownership, they use fake flags, and they specialize in moving sanctioned cargo, like Russian crude oil. They're a huge part of this new, high-risk environment.
Let's look at a textbook case, the tanker Boracay. This ship is a total ghost. It operates with a fake flag from Benin, it's constantly changing its name and its identity, and it's owned by some anonymous shell company in the Seychelles. And what's its business? Moving sanctioned Russian crude.
And its recent journey shows you just how quickly things can escalate. One minute, it's loading Russian oil. The next, it's being investigated as a possible launch pad for drones near Copenhagen. And then, just yesterday, it gets intercepted by the French Navy. See, this isn't just about shady business deals anymore. This is a direct threat to national security.
And the Boracay is not some isolated incident. These risks are global, and they are escalating fast. You've got a Dutch cargo ship hit by a missile in the Gulf of Aden, you have a Pakistani minister accusing Israel of a drone strike on a gas carrier, and then you have a massive bust in Greece that uncovered a criminal network flooding Europe with illegal goods. The flashpoints are they're everywhere.
The financial cost of all this illicit trade is just staggering. The goods they seized in that one Greek raid were worth €250 million. But the real damage is even bigger. We're talking an estimated €800 million in lost taxes and duties over 8 years. That kind of lawlessness creates political shockwaves that are felt way beyond the port.
Right, because all this friction isn't just happening out on the ocean. It's boiling over into the normally quiet, buttoned-up meeting rooms where the actual rules of global shipping get made.
Take the International Maritime Organization, the IMO. Geopolitical fights are now taking center stage. Russia, after getting booted from the Executive Council or the invasion of Ukraine, is now lobbying like crazy to get back in. At the same time, the US is taking a much more aggressive stance on climate rules. So this organization that was once all about consensus is now just another battlefield for global power struggles.
So when you put it all together, you've got this flood of money, you've got this massive bet on future technology, and you've got this rising tide of conflict on the high seas and in the halls of power. You really have to ask yourself, are the decades of relatively smooth, predictable global trade, are they coming to an end?